Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars The Mandalorian review episode. Today we will be talking about Chapter 15, that is Season 2, Episode 7. Oh my god, we're almost at the end of this season. And today's episode was called The Believer, and I gotta say, I am sad that we're so close to the end of The Mandalorian Season 2 every week. Basically, my wife and I order brunch on Friday mornings and we watch the show. I've usually watched it once already, to be fair, because I get up and film these videos for you guys, but it's a really nice thing to look forward to every week. And yeah, it sucks that it's going to be gone and that we have to wait until Christmas of next year for season 3. But let me know, do you have any rituals that you do weekly for The Mandalorian? Do you stay up and watch it right away? Do you watch it a few days later? Let me know all of that and more down in the comments. Of course, on that note, today's video obviously contains spoilers. My brief spoiler-free impression is that I really enjoyed it. I'm not giving you any more. Come back after you watch the episode and join in on the conversation. So, with that being said, I don't know if I really could spoil today's episode in one word. There wasn't a lot that happened that was really unexpected, but we got a really well executed episode showing how the Mandalorian has now tracked down Moff Gideon's command cruiser, or his light cruiser, whatever it is. There's some controversy there. We talked about that in a prior video. The episode starts off on the Carthon chop fields, where we have Mayfield, of course, Bill Burr's character, serving a pretty harsh looking prison sentence. I like the look of this planet. It's pretty small scale, but we can see that the New Republic seems to be repurposing or maybe just disposing of old Imperial technology. And I want to talk about Bill Burr because he was probably one of my favorite parts of this episode, if not my favorite, which is kind of surprising because I put the episode that he featured in last season as near the bottom of the show for me. This episode saw his character transformed from merely some sort of like cocky hotshot bounty hunter to somebody with a heart and an ex-Imperial who clearly feels a certain way about the atrocities the Empire has committed. We get a nice touch on Operation Cinder, which is really the turning point for many Imperials in the new Star Wars canon. We have that in Alphabet Squadron and in other places. So I really enjoyed hearing that. I thought it was interesting that he met his former commander, Valen. I forget his last name, Valen something, who was responsible for that individual instance of Operation Cinder, and well, they worked things out by the end of the episode. But yeah, I may be getting ahead of myself a little bit, just to say that I thought Bill Burr as an actor brought a lot to this character and it fit in really nicely in the episode. I also really enjoyed the crew that we have together. Boba Fett is back. Not only has he repainted his armor, but he sort of changed up his wardrobe a little bit. Some people said that Boba Fett looked really thick last episode. First of all, don't shame my boy Fett, especially after escaping from the Sarlacc, but he looks closer to normal here, which is almost a shame because his look last episode was really terrifying and really unique. But I gotta say, I do love the painted armor, and I'm sure we'll see it get scratched up through at least next episode. Then of course Fennec and Dune round off a very, very deadly team. When they go in the Slave One, we see an interesting shot of the interior sort of rotating because Slave One does have that unique flight system. I thought that was really cool. And just generally the visual effects for that ship have been spectacular all the way through. It was also really cool to see Boba Fett and the Mandalorian coming together to work out a plan without Boba Fett sort of dominating things like you might expect. Boba did sit out most of this episode when it comes to action. I wonder whether that was the right move after last episode especially, but the action did end up being, I think, a lot more compelling than what we saw last time. The Boba Fett scenes in Chapter 14 I thought were well done, the at least introduction scenes, but overall the battles kind of took on that vibe where it's just wave and wave of enemies being mowed down, whereas this episode I think combat was a little bit more thoughtful. Bill Burr and the Mandalorian dress up as tank troopers. They steal a new Juggernaut variant, which I thought was interesting. It's not even the Juggernaut type we got in Rogue One, which may have been a little bit much given the amount of Rogue One references otherwise, but it seems like a new, smaller variant. Mando is forced to leave his Mandalorian armor in favor of the Stormtrooper armor, and we get a cool fight scene where he sort of has to realize he doesn't have the same Beskar protection as normal. He tries to block some attacks with his forearms and the armor just shatters. I thought that was a really nice touch, and Mandalorian felt definitely a bit more exposed than normal. That leads to a very conflicting feeling scene where the Empire swoops in with ties and blasts away the chasing raiders, and I say that's sort of conflicting not only because it's the Empire accompanied by traditionally victorious music for the show, but also because these raiders are attacking shipments which are loaded with rhydonium, a highly explosive material that we also saw in the Clone Wars. So were these really pirates or raiders, or were these just people trying to stop the Empire from acquiring a new source of explosives? Either way, alongside the TIEs, we also got Shore Troopers, another awesome design from Rogue One I'm really happy to see back. And when they went into the sort of Imperial facility here, it reminded me of Solo, that scene where they're on Corellia about to leave. It was much more also traditionally Mandalorian than the past two episodes, which is why this episode was a nice change of pace for me. The Jedi and the Tragedy were huge plot episodes. A lot happened, and I think they're going to be the favorite of this season for a lot of people. But Dave Filoni and Robert Rodriguez brought a very, very different tone to the show. Especially, I would say, Rodriguez, whereas Filoni sort of fit within the Mandalorian's general feel, but was more of a samurai movie. So I appreciated the opportunity to, well, get back to basics, I guess. Anyway, inside the base, the Mandalorian, as many assumed would happen, was forced to take off his helmet to help rescue the child. We're seeing more and more elements of his once unbreakable creed start to be broken, and more frequently. And I gotta say, it was really nice to see Pedro's face. I think in season 3 and season 4, that'll happen more often, and I'm really looking forward to the moment where Pedro and the child sort of see each other in their eyes for the first time. And on that note, now that I think about it, this is the first episode which hasn't featured Grogu at all. Even the end of episode 1 features Grogu. So that was weird. I gotta say, I did miss his presence, even if on an episode like this, he probably would have been left back in what would have been the Razor's Crest, but is now Slave One. Anyway, after the fight inside the Imperial base, they escape through the window and climb up to the roof. We have Fennec Shand and Cara Dune providing cover with sniper rifles. Then, of course, Slave One roars in, looking phenomenal as always, picks them up, and the episode is essentially over, but for what a lot of people were waiting for, the seismic charge, which, thanks to Ben Burtt, still sounds as amazing as it always did, and Mayfeld proves that he's the good guy we thought he was, or at least we learned he might be, by shooting the explosives and crippling the base, which grants him a sort of pardon from Cara Dune, who says, well, you were dead, feel free to go. I saw that and I'm like, I don't really know where he's going to go. He's sitting on a pretty seemingly out of the way Imperial world, which feels dominated by one Imperial base. I mean, there's one shot earlier of the locals and they looked very impoverished, so I don't know what his plan is, but I can understand why he wanted to get away from Slave One and the Mandalorian as quickly as possible. All in all, though, for me, this acted as somewhat redemption for his character from the first season. Not that he really needed redeeming, I just wasn't really interested in the character, and now I am. I enjoyed his discussions about the Mandalorians, comparing them to the Empire, and how really the galaxy doesn't always care who's in charge, but these endless wars are being fought, and people are pretty much just left impoverished in servitude and under the command of someone they'll probably never see. The ending of the episode, I gotta say, was super cheesy, but I still loved it. The Mandalorian mirrors Moff Gideon's original message from season 1 back to him, basically saying that the child will be returned to him very soon, that he cares about him a lot. Part of my brain is like, that's really sweet, I enjoy that, but the other part of my brain's like, well, he just gave up any tactical advantage that he had. I mean, Moff Gideon wouldn't have known that they were coming had that message not been sent. And I gotta say, I think as a transition episode, there could have been a bit better of a plot here. The idea is that they're finding Moff Gideon's ship. Does that mean they're finding a way to track it, its original location? We get a map that points somewhere to the mid-rim. I'll have to take a look at that Aurebesh and decode it later, and if there's anything interesting in there, I'll be sure to follow up in a video. But that's really all I have to say about this. I quite enjoyed the episode. I thought it was probably middle of the road for the show, but that's not a bad thing. Nothing game-changing happened here. We do get an interesting lead up to the the season finale, thankfully. And yeah, middle of the road for The Mandalorian is very, very good. I immensely enjoyed this. I was glad to get back to, better directed action in my opinion, and that typical Mandalorian feeling. I've got no idea what next episode is like. Hopefully it's longer. This was only 38 minutes again. The season finale needs to be in that 40 or 50 minute ballpark, preferably near the length of episode 1. But guys, that's all I have for today. Let me know your thoughts down below, and until next time, may the Force be with you.